Well, welcome to the Dashboard Dojo. Today, we're going to talk about getting started with Salesforce, and I thought to do a two-part series on this. Just another moment or so, and we'll get started. Washington State, Dallas, Texas, California, Pennsylvania, very cool. Kyle and I are just outside Boston. Awesome, let's get started. So welcome to the Dashboard Dojo. Today we're going to talk about getting started with Salesforce reports. So this is the first of a two-part series. Really excited to have you here with us today. So if you haven't been with us before, why is this called the dojo? Well, the dojo in Japanese is a place to learn the way. And as a student, and then after graduating college, I lived in Japan for a number of years, and I was just really enamored by the dojos that I visited. This is a Kyudo dojo. And now I'm wondering if I'm saying it correctly. Is it actually Kyudo? That's the Japanese bow and arrow. My memory's not the best, but watching these masters perform their art was incredible. The whole concept of the dojo is incredible. So I love this idea of having a place to learn about reports and dashboards. We do have over 40 hours of recordings now on the Dashboard Dojo site. There's a QR code to the dojo site. It's just dashboarddojo.com. There's a recordings link, and there's a lot there, including the recording from our last session on standard report types. So we'll do quick introductions, talk about our sponsor, OpFocus, and then dive right in to Waza and Shiai, and then we'll talk about upcoming dojo topics and then take Q&A. We can pretty much take Q&A throughout. So who am I? My name is David Carnes. I'm the chairman of a company called OpFocus. I am very happy to be a Salesforce MVP and like to share something about myself each dojo. This is one of my favorite trips ever. This was in central Turkey in a place called Cappadocia, which is the ballooning capital of the world. And it was incredible. There were probably 5 times as many balloons as in the background of the picture, just all throughout. And the gentleman in the balloon that I was in was such an expert. So super cool. Has anybody else been ballooning in Cappadocia? I totally recommend it if you haven't done it. So we also have on today's call, Kyle Shagnon, who's the events manager for OpFocus. Welcome back, Kyle.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you for keeping us organized. So our sponsor is OpFocus, where Kyle and I both work. OpFocus helps SaaS companies scale their go-to-market operations. We've been offering Salesforce consulting since 2006. It's really been a fun ride. You can learn more at opfocus.com. So what are we going to talk about today? So it's always good to start with why. If you've read Simon Sinek's book, let's start with why. Why do we do reporting? And then, as far as this idea of getting started with Salesforce reporting, let's do a walkthrough of the reports tab. Let's talk about organizing your reports. Let's talk about running your reports. And if you've been using Salesforce for years and you've run reports in Classic, there are some differences in Lightning that are worth knowing, and they're worth training your users on. Some really nice things that you can do after the report's been saved and you're just running it. I do want to make a plug for the new Analytics tab, which will be coming out fully generally available. Currently, it's in beta, but it'll become generally available in the summer release. And that's another place where you can create and access your reports. I do want to give a plug for mobile reporting, which just had a major upgrade in the spring 23 release that just went live a few weeks ago. Reports are vibrant, they're fast, and they've added some really nice, unique features that make reporting on a mobile device really a pleasure. We can't get far in reporting without taking a moment to talk about permissions. You've probably heard me say before, if you've been on a dojo before, in Salesforce in the standard user profile, only 4 out of about 30 report and dashboard permissions are actually enabled by default. And so I'll just talk a little bit about that and why that's important if you're getting started with reporting. So when somebody walks up to your desk and says, "Hey, I need you to create a report," there are some good questions to ask to help clarify. So I think that's a good starting place to talk about creating reports, is like, how do you gather enough information to be close to the target for what somebody's asking for? The next biggest thing in reporting is understanding report types. So that first decision you make when you go to create a new report is a doozy. It's a really important decision, and which report type you're going to use. So essentially, report types are data structures, and it's worth understanding them to really give you a fighting chance at reporting. Today, we'll do a report builder walkthrough. So basically, let's look at all the switches and levers in the report builder. Let's actually go build out a few examples. And then I do want to make a plug for the old sample reports in Classic. In Lightning, there's actually there's just one sample report that comes in your system. It has to do with flows, so it's not that useful unless you're reporting on flows. But the old sample reports in Classic are still there. You can basically go look at one if you like it, just save it as something else, and then you could use that in Lightning as a starter for a report. So there are about 75 sample reports still in Classic. So if you're getting started, those can be helpful to you. So why are we interested in reporting? Well, for a couple of reasons. Most organizations need to understand the current health of the organization. They want to try to predict where the business or the organization is going. They certainly want to look back and understand trends for, how did they get into the particular mess that they're in now, or, are things better now than they were before? Within Salesforce reporting, there are a number of features that are just sort of like one step beyond the basics that can really add color, they can add emphasis, and are really quite great. I've got in this top left screenshot here, I've got two examples of formulas, and we can use a grouped report. So this is a summary report showing the sum of won deals month by month. And we can use formulas, and you can see the FX next to each one. These are summary formulas, and we can calculate the change month to month. So we can do sort of interesting things like that. Is, how quickly is the business changing? How is it changing month to month? We've got a funnel chart over here. This is great for looking at an open pipeline, your opportunities. So what is our sales team currently pursuing by stage? So a funnel chart's great for that. We can see a matrix report down here in the bottom left, and this gives us a really nice way for a bird's eye view looking down at data. You can see that I've also added in a single color of conditional highlighting to highlight some, it looks like, are they all zeros? Just highlight data anomalies, and that, combination of, having data organized a certain way and taking advantage of conditional formatting, conditional highlighting can be really powerful. We also, so on reports, we have the ability to have up to 8 different types of charts. So you can have one chart, there are 8 different types of charts. One of them that a lot of people sort of shy away from is a scatter plot. And the scatter chart, kind of a nice example of that is, essentially allowing you to see correlations in the data. So I've got Julie Chavez, who has a win ratio of 91%, and her average deal size is 814. But right behind her is Evelyn Wilson, who has a win ratio of 90% and an average deal size that's 340K higher. So, we can use these scatter charts to essentially look for correlations in the data, look for sort of hidden points of emphasis that we might take advantage of. And this is all just sort of stuff we can do on reports without a lot of sophistication. Two other things.
David,
sorry.
Before going too in depth, did you want to launch the poll?
Oh, I think that's a great thing. Let's launch the poll. Thank you. So I did intend to ask you guys, where are you in your Salesforce reporting journey? Are you just starting out? You got your feet wet, you're excited for more, getting the hang of it, wondering if you missed anything, if you've got it already, but you're just skipping out of work? or if you're volunteering to lead the next Dashboard Dojo. So thank you for reminding me, Kyle, about the poll.
Give it a few more seconds here for people to get your submissions in. All right.
All right, just starting out. So 12%, got your feet wet, 20%, awesome. All right, nobody wants to take on the Dashboard Dojo. Come on, it's got to be somebody. So awesome. Well, this is wonderful. I'm so glad, and seeing so many familiar names in the list of attendees is awesome. Welcome back. And I imagine most of you are in that middle group. Did you have another thing to talk about, Kyle?
No, I just noticed that we missed it on the past slide.
Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. Okay, so another thing that we can do with reporting is we can take advantage of trending data, and this is one of the most powerful things in reporting. I've got two examples here. This top one is based on a reporting snapshot. We did a Dashboard Dojo about a year ago on reporting snapshots, and it's the most popular Dashboard Dojo recording on YouTube by far. So very, very powerful technique to essentially copy data into a custom object. And if you do that every week, you basically schedule the reporting snapshot. You can then report on that custom object and show trends over time. The bottom example of the trending has no special structure at all. This is just a report of, it's actually not 52 weeks of pipeline. So, oh, this is funny. I got the, I copied the notations wrong. So this is not 52 weeks of pipeline. This is year over year sales bookings amount by month. That's funny that I did that. So this one down here is just taking opportunities that are closed, one, and grouping them twice by close date. And again, another type of powerful trending, and this allows you to see seasonality year over year by month. So that's pretty funny that I switched up the, so disregard the big black header, just look at the little ones on the left, and that's closer to what it should be. All right, so we talked a little bit about why. So organizations will use reporting to basically manage their business. Your leadership needs it. Your mid-level managers desperately need it to manage their teams. Individual users can benefit from reports as well. So where we do and sort of organize and access our reports is primarily through the Reports tab. So this tab is usually visible to most users by default, and this tab starts to have more stuff on it as you get going with it. When you first click on the Reports tab, there's literally nothing showing because it's showing you the default view is recent. And the crazy thing about that being the default view is that the search context over here is also based on recent. You see the words search recent reports. So if you're new to Salesforce, you're clicking on the Reports tab for the first time and you want to see what is in this system, what you could do is select the category called All Reports, come back up here and do a search. The search on the Reports tab is a little quirky. It will search on the beginnings of words. So if you, for example, if I search for the word bird, it'll find that third word in the title of these couple of reports. However, if I search for IRD, it won't find anything. So it's searching on the beginnings of words. So let's go ahead and do that. And you can see the highlight that appears on those letters. But again, if I search for a partial word, it doesn't find anything. So that's a little different than the way the global search works. The global search will also search the descriptions, whereas the Reports tab search doesn't do that. So there's a couple of differences between the global search at the top and the Reports tab search. The main thing to know about that search is that it's category specific. So if I click on public reports here, the search context changes. So if we stay at the high level for a moment, we have this list of categories over here on the left. I think a lot of times I gravitate to all reports or recent reports, but you can also see reports that are created by you and private reports. We also see a list of folders here, which can be useful to you. In Lightning, one of the things that we can do is we can nest folders. We couldn't do that in Classic, but we can do it in Lightning. So these folders that we're seeing here are all top level folders. There could be 1,000 reports in one of these folders. There could be 1,000 subfolders. There's probably some limit that I don't know about. So maybe you can't have 1,000, but you can't tell from the top level what's in it. You have to go drill down into it. And I think I have a couple of examples in here. I thought I would have one. So let's click on the one called Sales Ops Reports. And I can see that there's nothing in this folder. And I can see that there's basically some breadcrumbs up here to go backwards to the list of all folders. And I could go pick another folder. So I've got a folder in here called O'Reilly. I know that there are subfolders in this, and I've got a lot of stuff. Maybe yeah, here are the subfolders down at the bottom. And I could just keep drilling down. So within a folder, you can have other folders, or you can have reports. And to run any of these reports, you just click on the name of the report. So similarly, with this list of folders, we can also see folders created by you, folders shared with you. So between these two, you've basically got all your folders covered, the ones you've created and the ones that other people have created and shared with you, which is great. Lastly, we have a category called favorites, and favorites are really quite fantastic. You can favorite up to 200 items, and this is an individual setting in Salesforce. So you can favorite reports, you can favorite dashboards, you can favorite report folders, dashboard folders, you can favorite list views, records, all kinds of stuff. But you can see here, I've favorited a bunch of reports and a couple of folders. Well, now that I've favorited those, I can get to them very quickly through here. I can also go up to the star and access, just to the right of the star, I can go see my favorites list. And you can see the report icon is this one in teal. So I can access them. Another place where you can access your favorites is right in the tab itself. So if I click on the down arrow, the little caret to the right of the tab name, I can see my, looks like the top 5 favorites. Maybe they were the first 5 favorites. I'm not sure how those are picked because I clearly have more favorites than 5 on my list. So anyway, some of your favorites will show up here along with recent records in the tab. So if I go back to the list of all reports, so Cindy asked a question, can you drag and drop folders into a nest, or do you have to create them as a subfolder? So Cindy, we are not able to do any dragging and dropping in Lightning. And Classic doesn't support the nested folders. Classic still allows drag and drop to put reports into folders, but because Classic doesn't give you a nested folder option, there's no drag and drop option there. Lightning doesn't have any drag and drop for reports into folders. So the answer is no. Great question. Okay, Carol, thank you for sharing that. So if you need to search the report description, Classic still searches both name and description. And I will share with you, I think this will work. Let's search on the word plots here, which is not in, I don't think it's in any report name, but it's in a description. If I go up to the global search and run that, it's picking out the word plot. So there's no plot in these 3 report names, but it's picking it out of the description. So you don't have to switch back to Classic. You can just use the global search and look in the report result list. You could also see dashboards in the list of top results as well if you just wanted to drill down on a particular object. But thank you for sharing that, Carol. All right, so what else do we have on the reports tab? So you've got this list of columns here. You've got the report name, the folder it's in, these both links. So to go run a report, you click on the blue link here. The same if you want to drill into a folder, you can click on that. Descriptions on reports are not required. You can write, I believe it's 255 characters. So you could write a sentence or two explaining. I think it's a good best practice to do that. We have the ability to add a couple of extra columns to this view. And you can see that I've added a column called report last run date. It's a really nice thing for seeing when was the last time somebody looked at this. When we did our cleanup episode of the Dashboard Dojo a year ago, we used the OpFocus system as the example, and we had reports that weren't run since 2008. Basically, they came in an App Exchange package, and we never thought to run those reports that came with that package. It's incredible that we could see that they hadn't been run in, many, many years. The subscribed column is also useful. So each user can subscribe to up to 7 reports or 7 dashboards. That's in the Enterprise Edition. With the newest release, it's up to 15 reports and 15 dashboards for Unlimited Edition. So it can be nice to see that subscribe column. If I click on this once or twice, I guess I haven't subscribed to anything, but if I wanted to, I could just use this action pull down here where I can run a report, edit it, subscribe, export it, delete it, add it to a dashboard, favorite it, or move. So to that question about the dragging and dropping, I guess the question was about folders specifically, but you can move reports into folders just by going to the action menu to the right of each one. It's not dragging and dropping though. So what else do we have up on the reports tab up in the top right? So I already talked about the search. We have a new report button. This is if your profile allows you to. That is set by default that everyone can create reports. There's the new folder button. Again, this is if your profile allows you to. You also have this gear here, which allows you to do 2 things. One is that you can choose the columns you want to display. So if I click on that, I have 2 of them that have to appear, the report name and report folder, but you could get rid of, one of these other ones. You can move them around. And then we have created by, created on. I find that created by and created on, they're kind of good, useful like once, but after that, they're less useful than, to know that a report was created in, 2015. It's just not all that useful. Maybe the last modified or last modified by are more useful. But why don't I go ahead and add the last modified by, and I'll put the report last run date out to the right, save that. Now, if you need to, there is one other choice here. Every now and then the tab sort of looks funny. And if you click the reset column widths, it basically re-optimizes the widths. Every now and then they don't look right, the columns. So that's why that was added there. Awesome. So this is the reports tab. And that's pretty much it. I guess what's great about this action menu is that we can subscribe from here. We can export to Excel. Another feature that's available to all users by default. It can be turned off and probably should be turned off. But the ability to export data, we can go ahead and choose that and export to Excel or export to CSV. If the report is in a folder that you have permissions on, such as the ability to manage that folder, you could delete the report as well. All right, let's jump back here. So we talked about folders just a little bit. Folders are where you put reports, and these control access to your reports. We can nest folders up to 4 levels deep in Lightning. And I think it's like, at best, I'd say rudimentary navigation. And what I mean by that is this bottom screenshot here. I'm drilled down into a 4th level folder. Each folder can have a name or a label that's up to 40 characters wide. That becomes, if you have 4 folders, 40 characters wide, the words start disappearing. So I've got a 4th level folder. If I want to go up a level, I can click on the 3rd level, or I can choose the ellipsis to go essentially, back up to a higher level than that. And it just feels odd to me. I think what I would love for this is when I click on the all folders, I'd love to be able to drill down and see just the folder structure here, which again, because you could have literally 50 subfolders, 100, 1,000 subfolders, it would probably go off the page. So maybe that's not optimal either, but I'd love a little bit more of an indicator of what's in the folder. how many reports, how many subfolders, but it's not there. So when you're managing your reports, you're putting them. So let's say that you're tasked with creating some reports for the sales team. You're going to want to know, is there an existing folder where I might put these? Or do you want to put them in a temporary folder while you're creating them? The default folder when you're creating reports is the private reports folder, and no one else can see what's in that folder. So it's a great place for a workspace for you, but if you need to go share your reports with someone else, you're going to need to put them in another folder that's visible to those people. And when you create folders, there's 3 types of permissions you can give to other users. You can give them view permission, edit permission, or manage permission on the folder. So I'd say most of the time, if I'm going to give people access to a folder, I'd give them view permission, and that's it. Because I don't want people changing the reports. They can always create a copy and stick it in their private folder or somewhere else, but I don't necessarily want people to create reports. I don't want people to modify reports that I've created to, let's say, the marketing team's reports or support team's reports. I would really give out edit and manage pretty in a limited way. So if we go take a look in the system, if we want to go create a new folder, it's very simple. Let's call this Dōjō. You know what? Let's keep our special long vowels here. So Dōjō top level folder. You can see it auto-corrected my bad typing. And so now we have a new folder. It puts us in that folder, and the behavior changes when you create another folder. So if I want to create a nested folder here, this is a second level. It doesn't bring me into that folder. It just leaves me at the same level. Now, if I want to create a third level, I have to drill into the second level and call this a third level folder. And you start to see, I wonder if I already have a folder called third level folder. That's probably it. Let's call this third level. Okay, so now I can see my third level, and here's where the navigation across the folders gets a little clunky. So I can go back to the second level, or if I click on this ellipsis, I can choose to go all the way back to all folders, or I can go to the Dōjō top level folder. Maybe it's not, I don't know. I don't know why. I don't have a better suggestion, but it just always feels a little awkward to work with. Okay, so these are our folders. The one thing to know about sharing with folders is that the sharing is always done at the topmost level. So the root level, whatever the topmost level folder is. So in this case, it's the Dōjō top level folder. And what I can do at that level is I can go to the down arrow, the action menu, and share. And I can share with users, roles and subordinates, public groups. And literally, if I needed to share with the sales team, I'd go pick a role that's related to sales, let's say Sales America, and I have the ability to give them view, edit, or manage. I'll probably give them view. I'll go ahead and share. If you don't click this button here, the sharing hasn't occurred. So you have to do that, and then you can see who currently has access down below here. So that's the managing folders. So I said earlier that there are a bunch of things you can do when you run a report. So we have up here at the top leftmost corner, you can see what report type was this report created on. We have a button here that's new. This is new in the spring 23 release a couple weeks ago, the enable field editing. So in the prior release, field editing, you didn't need to click a button. You just hover over fields. If there's a pencil, you could inline edit. Now you have to click a button when you're in run mode to put it into field editing mode. We can search within report results. This is cooler than you think it is. And I think they did a nice job with the search. When you've run a report, you can add charts to the report. So in Classic, we used to have to go edit the report, add the chart, save it, and run it. Now we can just, while we're running the report, just go ahead and add a chart. And again, there are 8 types of charts. One of the really nice things you can take advantage of when you're running a report is this filter icon here. So, if you're wondering, what in the heck am I looking at? So somebody created this report, the report's been used for a while, you're new on the team, and somebody's like, hey, could you make a few changes to this report? And you're like, what am I looking at? Two big clues for you would be this report type up here. The word opportunities is telling me what data foundation was this report run on. And then you can click on this filter icon, and I'll go ahead and click on one in the system. So I'll just go run some report. How about this report here? Opportunities by pipeline, opportunity pipeline by owner and stage. And if I come in here and click on this filters, it's basically not only telling me what filters are currently applied. So this is all opportunities that are open, but for the filters that are here, I can actually play with them. So really nice feature for your end users, something you want to teach them, that they can say, you know, I want to just look at all the deals that are closed won. So that will drastically change this. So there's just one column because there are just one stages for this particular example. So we do have a refresh button, and you might, you know, the data might be changing since you've been sitting there. You've got an edit button. You've got a down arrow and action menu that's got some choices to it. We have charts, so you can actually click on any chart segment to basically drill down and run the data for that segment, or show the data for that segment. You can also hover over any chart segment and you can see more details about that segment. So that's nice. We can sort by the column headers. We can sort ascending or descending. We have, oh, there's number 12. We do have pull down arrows where you can make some changes to a report. So this report here, if I click on the pull down arrow, I can sort, I can group, I can make it a detail column, I can remove the group. And again, this isn't in the edit environment. This is just when you're running a report. One of the other things that you can do, you know, let's actually change this back so it's a little more interesting looking. One of the other things that we can do is we can take advantage of the toggles down at the bottom of the report. So like this is a matrix report. Matrix report groups it vertically and it groups it horizontally. It's an awful lot of data to look at if you want to see the detail rows, but we can, so I have them toggled off on this report, but I can toggle them on using the toggles, and it gives me all this data down below. Another cool thing we can do on this type of report, the matrix report, is I can click on any one of those segments and it'll show me the specific data for that down below. We can turn on and turn off the row counts. So there's always row counts available on reports. It just feels too busy to me to have that extra row of numbers in this particular case. So I'll go ahead and turn that back off. You can turn off the grand totals. The grand totals show up at the top of the report. So this number, and you can have many columns that are summed as showing the grand totals across the top, but this is basically allowing you to turn that on or off. There's one other toggle here, which is specific to this type of report, which will change the orientation if you have multiple summed. So right now I just have the sum of the amount, but if I had the average amount and the sum of the expected revenue, so I had 3, I can actually change the orientation, but with one summed value, it doesn't mean much. All right, so the last thing we can do when running a report that's kind of cool is we have these checkboxes to the left of any grouping, and these support something called drill down. So when I'm looking at this, if I want to zero in on this guy, Bruce, so let me learn a little bit more about this guy, Bruce, or I could pick multiple people. How about Bruce and Catherine? So now that I've checked these 2 boxes to the left of those 2 groupings, I have the drill down button, and the drill down button will allow me to, if I wish, you know, rather than keeping the same grouping, I can change the grouping and say, you know, for Bruce and Catherine, I want to look by industry. And I can go ahead and apply that. And I've basically just changed the report and drill down on just those 2 team members. And I can see that over here on the right, I have my filter has now been modified because I used the drill down function. So there's a lot you can do just when somebody else creates the report and you run it, or your users can do on the reports that you create. There's a lot of good stuff available. I mentioned the analytics tab earlier. This is a feature that's still in beta. There's a lot going into this. Very, very powerful search. There's a feature that I just discovered yesterday is actually going to be available called collections. So this feature I thought was going to be only for CRM analytics license holders, but I learned from the product manager yesterday that it is going to be available for just plain old report and dashboard users. What a collection is allows you to basically curate. So I could say these 3 reports and these 2 dashboards are part of how we're doing our go-to-market planning for the new year. And so you could create a go-to-market analysis collection, and then you can share the collection. So it's different than folders. It's something that lays on top of folders, essentially, allowing you to curate content. So I think it's a really cool thing that's coming. Well, it's already there in the beta. So the analytics tab is a new feature right now. It requires a checkbox by your system administrator to enable it. And basically, this will give us a point. There'll be a point in time where we don't need the report and dashboard tabs anymore, because we can just, shorten the list of tabs to one less tab and just work off the analytics tab. You can browse, you can access your favorites, you can create reports, you can create dashboards, etc. There's a lot here. I'm curious in the chat if anybody's been playing with the analytics tab. I've probably asked that before, but I'm very excited about where this is going. We did a Dōjō on mobile reporting in the fall, and I probably should have waited a few weeks because a lot changed with the. I guess I was able to show the beta in that session, but a lot changed in the spring release just a few weeks ago with mobile reporting. So number one, it's a lot faster. It's great. So what is the mobile app? This is a free app available for your smartphone or for your tablet. It's available on iOS or Android. So if you go into the App Store on your phone, or your that'd be on an Apple iPhone, you can go download the Salesforce app, install it, and you can log right in. So you not only log into your own system, but you could log into, I know some of you on the call are consultants, you could log into multiple systems if you want. There are some really nice, unique reporting features available with mobile reporting. You have the ability to pin favorite reports to a homepage. So you can see here, I've pinned 2 reports, but I got tired after 10. So I pinned 10 reports to my mobile home. Those could be the 10 most often used reports. What I really like about this, what's super, super cool, is that it shows you the delta, the changes in values since the last time you looked at your mobile, at Salesforce Mobile. So I looked 3 minutes ago, and lo and behold, the pipeline grew by $4 million in the last 3 minutes. All right, to be truthful, I manufactured this data, but it's still super cool, because if you looked a week ago, you could see how much the pipeline has changed, plus or minus. You could see that, I've summed the average amount, so it would show that change. Again, with any of the grand summary columns, it's going to show you the changes to those values. And you can have up to, you can have at least 10 pinned reports on mobile. And then when you actually go run a report, so if I click on one of these pinned reports, it'll go run the report. And they've done a really nice redo of this, much, much faster with the new release. You've got your summaries at the top. Your groupings are respected. They weren't before. So your groupings are respected. And then the top column is frozen, which it wasn't before. You can drill down and open individual records that have the font in blue. You also, if you have a chart, that chart will show up. There's a little tab at the bottom. You can pop that up. So really, really nice, the mobile reporting features. All right, before we dive in, I do want to mention one last thing, which is reporting permissions. I wrote a blog article a few years ago. I talk about this a lot, and you guys are probably sick of it, but it's still really important. Out of the box, most users using the standard user profile have access to very few reporting features. So if you're not sure if you have access to a lot of reporting features, or if it hasn't been talked about in a while, you might check out this blog article. I wrote it in a way that I make suggestions for end users, managers, report and dashboard super users. And this is the group that I feel the most heartfelt pain and anguish for. If you're a super user, but you don't actually have permission to do stuff, there are features that you could take advantage of that you're just not even seeing. They're just not available to you. This is the group that I fear the most for. So the link here is just bit.ly/report_permissions for this blog article, and hopefully that's useful to you. All right. So when somebody stops by your desk and says, hey, I need you to go create this report, I want you to, sort of pause and have some questions ready to ask them about what they're asking you to do. So, probably the most important questions you can ask are sort of the why type questions. Why sometimes seems a little like smarmy. Why are you asking me to do this? You're wasting my time. That's not what we mean at all. It's more, hey, can you tell me a little more information, such as what decisions do you tend to make with this report or with these reports? What questions need answering? And it's a really important thing to give you the context of what you're trying to go build. A lot of times the people that ask you to create reports, they don't have the words to describe the features that are available, and you have to bridge that gap when somebody's asking you that question. Another really nice question is, do you have a past example or a mock-up? This is especially valuable when you have new leadership joining an organization. So new VP of sales comes on board. She, a lot of them will carry their favorite reports with them job to job. And asking this question about a mock-up can really help bridge that gap of their understanding of what they're asking for, your understanding of what they want, and everybody's understanding of what's possible. A lot of times when somebody has something in Excel, and what they're asking for may be a little unreasonable to something that's not accomplishable directly on a single report. You might need multiple reports. You might need a dashboard, again, sourced by multiple reports to achieve something that they're like, oh, it's so easy to do this in Excel. The problem with Excel is that it's not automated unless you write VBA code. But so it's great to ask about past examples or mock-ups. I'll like to print them out and even just like circle areas. Where am I going to get this particular data point from? Where do I have this data in Salesforce? Because you have to have it somewhere in order to be able to put it on a report. So some other good questions: who will use the report? How often will the report be used? Somebody may just be asking you for a report that they're going to use on their own. And that information will be helpful for which folder do you put it in? Who do you share the folder with? That'll be important. I also like to ask, in what circumstances will the report be used? Is it going to be used in a big meeting? Is it going to be used for a one-on-one from a sales manager to their sales rep? Is somebody planning to use it on a mobile device? Is it something that they want to see a chart in a page layout? Are they hoping to just have this emailed to them once a month? We can do that with subscriptions. And then, finally getting down to the report request itself, it's good to ask, like, what information are you looking to see on the report? What fields? Are there any groupings? You listen for the word by. Someone says, I want to see all of our cases by. That word by is indicating what grouping you might put on the report to show the information. Is there summarized information that they're looking for? Are there calculations required, such as a ratio or something that might indicate you need a formula on the report? Are they looking for any data to be highlighted? We do have the ability to do conditional highlighting, and we can highlight numbers above or below thresholds. We can't highlight text to say, show this in red if it's Bob. We can highlight numbers, so that is an option for us. It's also important to ask questions around how you might filter the data. Very rarely is somebody saying, I want to see a report on all 1 million contacts in our system. That just doesn't really happen. So generally they want a subset of data, and you have to ask some questions to get at what is the filter, what filters do I need to add to create what they're looking for? An example of that would be, is there a time period? Are you looking for things in the past year, the past quarter, all time, in the future? Another question that can be helpful, and sort of give you some extra oomph in your reporting is, if they're asking you to create this one version of a report, it may be helpful to ask, are there any other variations that would be useful to you? Another thought would be, would you like to see a visualization? Is there some kind of a graphic or a chart that you'd like to see? Again, we have just 8 available to us in the Salesforce reporting, but it's just helpful to know what they're expecting. Finally, similar to the who will use the report, who should have access if there's sensitive information, you might put that in a folder. You might put that in a folder that has limited, less access to it. Awesome. Any other questions that anybody asks when somebody asks them to create a report? Maybe you could throw those into the chat. Just be great to share them. I know this isn't an exhaustive list, but it's good to have some questions in mind when somebody asks you to go create a report. All right, so the first step when you go to create a new report is a doozy. It's a big one, okay? Your first choice in creating a new report really locks you into a certain path. So you want to get this right. Our last Dōjō session was on standard report types. I have a QR code for that, the recording of that. In the past, we did a whole session on custom report types. This is probably the most important topic that should have its own trailhead badge, but doesn't yet. So what do I mean by this? Well, when you go create a new report, you click the new report button and you get to this screen and you have to pick something. So each of these is like a door to a certain set of data and then potentially some specialized structure to support your report. So getting familiarity with these is important. And then also having a sense of the limitations. There are about 75 or so standard report types when you go to create, when you start working in Salesforce, and you have the ability as an admin or somebody with a special profile permission called Manage Custom Report Types, you have the ability to create custom report types. And you can see a couple of custom ones here in this list. So a couple of other things that are useful, just looking at this particular page, if I click on one of these report types, a little details panel opens up. This was introduced last year. You can see other reports created using this report type by you. So other reports created by others using this report type. You can see the objects that are available in the report type. You also have a sub tab here for what fields. So if you're looking for a particular field, so in the latest release, if you have Unlimited Edition, there is an additional search option over here on the right, which lets you search by object and search by field. The last time I played with it, it wasn't perfect, but again, it's an Unlimited Edition only thing to help you look through your report types. There's an extra filter here to dig down in. Thank you for putting the links in. Yeah. Okay. So before we move on from report types, what's really, really important to know, and Carol touched on this in her chat comment. So I said some of the standard report types have unique fields, some of them have unique structures to them. Many of the standard report types are based on inner joins. And you can see here this diagram. So an inner join would be, something between two objects in Salesforce, such as opportunities and contact roles. So if you see a report type that has the word with in it, that is it's almost a clear indicator that it's an inner join. And you'll only ever see opportunities that have contact roles. Now that may serve your needs perfectly, but there may be times that you want to see all the opportunities and their contact roles with or without the contact roles. I just want to see all the opportunities. We can achieve that with a left join by creating custom report types. Again, report types are the foundation that you build your report on. You build every report is built on a report type. So it's a really important concept to get down that most of these standard report types, all the ones with the word with, except for one, this opportunities with products is the only one I've found that is a left outer join. That's a standard report type. But custom report types give us more flexibility. There's a bunch of other things we can do with custom report types. So I'll leave it at that for now. But when you go to create a new report, or if you're editing a report that somebody else created, you can see the report type. So in the report builder, it's an oval. And when you run a report, it's just to the right of the word report, which report type was used on an existing report. So I find that helpful. All right, let's talk about the report builder. So the report builder has 4 big sections. When you go create a new report, you have this outline section and this filter section. So on the outline section, we can add groupings. We can add or remove columns here. We can also use this little action pull down to the right of the word columns to add summary formulas. We can add something called a bucket field if we want. There's another choice there to remove all columns, which I think is great. Before we move on from this section, there is a nice tool that you can use to pop out and see all the fields for that particular report type. It's a nice way for hunting for fields. We have a sub tab here with the blue circle and the number 1. This is telling me that this is the filters tab and there's one filter applied on this particular report type at the moment. The main area with the report builder is the preview pane. You've heard me say this before. If you've been to the Dōjō before, don't make business decisions based on what's in the preview pane. It's just a smattering of data to give you an example. If you want to see what it really looks like, click the run button. You don't have to save the report, just click the run button and you can see what the real data will look like. When I'm building reports, I'm often in the report builder editing, and then I'll run it just to see how it looks, and then I'll go back and edit it some more because the preview pane will not give you more than just a smattering of records. So there's a lot going on in the preview pane. This is brought over a lot of features that are familiar to people who worked in Classic, that you have these pull downs here and you can move columns left and right. You can sum columns, you can sort columns, you can group by columns. Some nice things you can do in those pull downs. We can click on any of the column headers to sort. You can see we're sorted ascending by opportunity owner here as well. So in the third section, we have the buttons across the top. We've got undo and redo. Those go back at least 25 undos and 25 redos. When you add your first grouping to a report, the add chart button wakes up. So that's kind of helpful. You can add a chart at that point. We can save and run. We can save, we can run. There's another thing that's tucked in behind here, which is the update preview automatically. So in the report builder, by default, it's going to show you every change as you make them, a preview of it, and you can turn that off. In fact, I think in new orgs, it's turned off by default. That can make your editing a little faster if you're seeing that the editing is running slow. Down at the bottom, we have a fourth section. This fourth section only appears once you've added your first grouping to a report. So there are the 4 toggles, and then if you've added a grouping and you've summed a column, you will see conditional formatting down here in the bottom right. All right, so I thought just to dive right in and just show you a couple things, just very, very quick examples before we wrap up for today. So if I'm looking for a list of our partners in the US and Canada, I'm probably going to just go run a report. I'm going to go start a new report. So from the reports tab, I have the new report button. And here's that screen where I select the report types. So I do have these categories over here on the left, and I could select accounts for this one. And I can see some other reports that have been created. I can see the list of fields that are available. I'm going to go ahead and choose this start report to go start the report, and it'll bring me into the report editor. One kind of nice mantra for you is to keep the idea of filters first. We see nothing in the preview pane, and that's because there's filters that are kind of goofy that are already applied here. So I've got show me my accounts, and I've got to create a date the last 7 days. I haven't created any accounts in the last 7 days. So as soon as I get rid of those, I'm going to see some data here. Well, in this example, we're looking for companies that are of type partner in the US and Canada. So I can stay right here on filters for a moment. There's a field on account called type. I'll go ahead and use that. This gets into, knowing your database. Oh no. I'm having this issue since I upgraded my OS. Uh-oh. All right, there it is. Oh, no, I lost it. This is very painful that it's just slowed right down. Oh. Okay, what I'm going to do, because that's gone so slow, is not wait. I'll just show you some existing reports. That is really frustrating. Do I trust it? It's going to be gone by the time I... All right, let's go look at some existing reports. So one of them that I showed, I think I had a screenshot for opportunities by owner and stage. This is a matrix report. I'll come right into edit it and just show off a couple things. We might come in and update the filters. In this case, the filters have been changed from close date this quarter to close date all time. And the same, the opportunity status has just been changed to open. So it's just showing open stuff. In this particular example, we've summed the amount column. And you can see here, I've just checked the box. I can add another sum if I want. I could sum and show the average, and that'll add it right below. It's starting to look really busy, so I think I'm going to get rid of the average. But just to show you, we can make those changes. And what we have on this particular report is we have conditional formatting, and that's way down here in the bottom right. Because I've grouped this report by something like opportunity owner, because I've summed it by something like amount, I can come in and do conditional formatting. So I've got this rule here. I can change it. I can change the color if I want, make it lime green. Click done, click apply, and that's going to look hideous. I don't recommend that. At least the font changed to white, but still, I think it looks terrible. So I just thought to show you just a little bit of work in here. I'm sorry that my org is just slowed down on this particular machine. But before we wrap up today, I just want to point out that in Classic, there are still about 75 sample reports available to us. You can switch back to Classic. You can run one of these. They're in a set of folders. They appear at the bottom of the list, and these have been there forever. You can't get rid of them. But there are some good starting examples if you're new to Salesforce reporting, which you might be. So in the campaign folder, for example, I've got campaign call down, campaign contacts. These are not visible directly in Lightning, but if you switch back to Classic, you can run any of these, save them in Classic, and then they'll be visible and usable in Lightning. Salesforce just made a decision not to bring them over. All right, so we talked about a bunch of stuff, and I'm more interested and excited to talk to you about what we're going to talk about next time. So we talked about the reports tab, the analytics tab, mobile, talked about permissions for a few minutes. We talked about questions to ask before starting, report types and data structures, did a walkthrough of the report builder. The examples fell flat. I'm sorry about this particular, I've got to switch to another machine next time. But what I thought to do for the next session, which is March 15th, so we'll do a second session, is we'll go through the 4 report formats. We'll really dig into filters some more. We'll talk about summaries. We'll talk about conditional highlighting. We'll put our toe in the water with formulas, and we'll talk about charts. Now, for most of these topics, we've done entire dojos on them. So we've got like long format. This will be a shorter format, just trying to give a good overview of these things. I haven't looked at the chat in a while to see if there are any questions that have popped up. So you're very welcome. Jorge has said Chrome renders faster than Safari. Yes, Safari has just slowed down to a crawl. It's something to do with 2 monitors as well. There's something that's just gone to a crawl since the last OS update that I've done. But if anyone has any other questions, we can stay on for a few moments. But I do hope you'll join us on the next session as we'll dig into some more examples of building reports and talk about some of these structural things you can take advantage of in reporting. So thank you for being part of the dojo. Hope you guys are doing really well with your reporting. Don't hesitate to reach out if there's something you want to talk through, but hope to see you next time. Kyle, thank you so much for hosting us again.
Happy to be here. Hope to see everyone again on March 15th. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. Have a good rest of the week.